Hi, this is Bill Hartzer, and this is the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast for February 27th, 2020. And I have the pleasure of having Mr. Dixon Jones here. We're going to talk today specifically about entities and internal linking and the knowledge graph and so forth. Welcome, Dixon.
Hi, Bill. How are you?
Great. How you've gotten into doing SEO and links and tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I started in search in the late 90s. My first website was using Front Page 98 or 97. I couldn't get 97 to work, so Front Page 98, which is an awful piece of software. Built a murder mystery games website. And then ended up building a consultancy. Then from consultancy became CMO at Majestic and built the face of Majestic for about a decade. Then left there a couple of years ago and stepped back a bit from there to set up a new business in links, which is entity based instead of traditional old school SEO based.
Sure. So let's talk a little bit about the knowledge graph. What the knowledge graph is actually, a database of information, that many, several different search engines use, Google primarily and Bing. And we see, parts of the knowledge graph and we search for different things, either certain people, places, things. The search results, we see kind of the knowledge graph will have data on the right-hand side of the search, the Google search results page, and so a little bit, where do they get a lot of this information, to populate? Database.
Yeah. Okay. So there's lots of different knowledge graphs. You can build knowledge graphs out of any set of data, but Google gets its training set from Wikipedia, Wikidata, primarily. So it's used that as a training set for its systems. So that's open source. So they're allowed to take that and put it into its systems. I assume that they have a relationship with Wikipedia beyond, downloading the whole of Wikipedia, but possibly not. Sure. And so they've built theirs from Wikipedia to start with.
Yeah. So I guess what a lot of people have questions about. Okay, how do we get ourselves, certainly into this, knowledge graph? Because it seems like, they certainly, treat entities a little bit differently than say somebody who just built a web page or a company. We mentioned one way, certainly is a Google My Business listing. And getting a listing, that's not necessarily going to get the company into the bigger picture knowledge graph, and it certainly is not going to get you a Wikipedia page. But how do we how do we work on, I guess, getting into, building ourselves up into being treated as an entity?
Okay, so one way of doing it, there's a lot of different approaches, but essentially, you kind of want to get to a point where Google not having you in the system is a big hole in its data. So the data can come in all sorts of different forms. If you think about the items in a knowledge base, they are typically a number of different things. They could be a geographical location, Sydney, or California, or the United Kingdom, or whatever. They could be a corporation, an entity as a corporation, a person, or they could be a concept or a thing. And the vast majority of topics, things are things. They're kind of things that we all understand and would find in any dictionary or house or home or whatever. You can't really go through life without saying this is something like a cup. You could call it a mug, but it's a coffee cup, and so that has to be an entity, and for it to not be an entity would mean that there'd be holes around it, and there would be a hole in the knowledge graph. And the more that people sort of are talking about this concept of cup or mug, the more it's necessary for that information to get filled in. Whether it gets filled in by an editor on Wikipedia or whether it gets filled in by a computer that fills in the holes is in a way secondary to the fact that the cup exists, and somebody's got to then, if they want to have a full view of the internet, they've got to include a cup in that idea. So when we come in, as we've got to decide what it is that we actually exist for, whether it's our organization, if it's Nike, it's trainers, it's shoes, it's sport, if it's, whereas if it's Doc Martens, then it's still shoes, but it's something very, very different. And and it's not just the company and the brand, but it's what they stand for and what they're championing. Because ultimately the user, if the user's typing in a brand, yes, you should get there, and that's what Google My Business helps to do. It creates that entity. But if not, if they're typing in an idea, then Google wants to only send a user to that web content if that web content answers that user's question. So therein lies that relationship between what you're trying to tell the knowledge graph, what you're trying to tell Google so that it can populate its knowledge graph, so that Google says, right, I understand not just about the brands and things on here, but the concepts that you're talking about and the order that you're talking about them. This is the place to send this user.
Yeah, and then it kind of related also to certainly a schema code where we're putting certain information on our sites to help Google understand that, and certainly there is parts of certain schema that we can put on to say, okay, well, this page is about this topic, and this is similar to this particular Wikipedia page or this particular the overall topic, and so that's what
we're trying to do is try and get that, analyze the content on your page for you, so that Google doesn't have to. So what Google has to, without web page schema, Google has to come in and understand what's on your page, and find all the little topics on your page, so that it can understand, then work out whether they're all semantically close to each other and relevant to the query. But the thing is that it's implicitly putting information into its database, whereas if you use web page schema, that is the machine language equivalent of the content that's on your page, and you're explicitly saying, out of all the topics you've seen on the page, it's about this page, this and this, and it mentions this, 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 and this, and this. So by doing that, you've explicitly told Google's machine learning what they should be looking out for. And that's important because Google is good at finding some topics on your page, things like brands and things like locations, but it's really bad at understanding when you talk about a coffee cup, whether you're talking about the coffee cup or the coffee cup is incidental to the content on the page. Are you mentioning the coffee cup, or are you talking about the coffee cup? Because if they want to answer the user's question and the user says, what is a coffee cup, they don't want to send them to a page that talks about coffee cups out of context without them being, this is what a coffee cup is and does. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and we're seeing more and more, and more Google just using kind of information and essentially the knowledge graph information that to answer a lot of questions before they're sending people over to the websites. There was an interesting tweet by Danny Sullivan in the past 24 hours that basically said that Google's trying to give their users information, and they're only sending people to, they're sending users to websites when they know they can convert for us, as sales or convert as customers and so forth. And so they're trying to just not necessarily send us, useless traffic of people who are just, and I guess that's, I guess that's maybe, some will see that as an excuse to, okay, well, that's why we're showing so much information in the search results and not, not sending users to over to websites.
I think there's as with everything that Google says, that's true, but there's sometimes a little bit more. I mean, I think they would rather,
Sure.
if they knew that that's going to convert into a paid customer for you as the website owner, then they'd rather you paid for the click, you know. So I think what they're really, Danny says, I want them to come when it's going to convert. Well, you say convert. I think what he really means, or possibly even said, I don't know, is, I want them to come when they will get the proper answer to their question, which, hopefully will be, if it's a trading thing, then yes, that'll be a conversion of a monetary conversion. But I think organically, they're much more interested in making sure that that person feels rewarded by the quality of that answer in relation to their underlying question, which isn't always money. The challenge for SEOs then is, how do you then turn that into money?
Exactly.
Yeah, cheers.
So I mean, obviously, so there's obviously, two ways of, certainly you can monetize your page, with obviously the traffic and sell ads, or or you're doing something like converting them to a customer and actually getting paid for a product or service.
Or you can do what you're doing now, is by proving yourself as a knowledge leader in a particular subject area. And then Google knows that that's where the expertise lies, and I think that SEOs have been doing that. The speakers have been doing that forever. We've been, happily linking to each other and talking about each other's stuff, probably better than most industries. And that collaborative nature has allowed SEOs to, some SEOs to have more prominence than others, and that's the same in any other industry. It's not to say that new people don't come in and disrupt. They do all the time. All the time. Every year, there's new SEOs out there that are just come out with one or two really good, obvious, pieces of quality content and stuff, and we all link to them as well, because it's new, and we want to know. We can't look as if we're experts if we're not seen to be commenting on the good stuff that's out there already. And I think everybody in their own industry should be more collaborative. We should all be nice.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I'm happy to link out to or refer to anybody who has more knowledge than I do. And
we can't all know it all. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. So talk about linking, though, internal links. Why are certainly we have a navigation of our website, but and that's kind of different than our when we talk about internal linking. We talk about, or I think specifically as an SEO is internal linking being in the context of content is, okay, I have a blog post, but I also sell this product, and if I mention that product in that blog post, I should link to it, and not just have the blog as a walled area and then products as a separate area. Those internal linking is helping users, but it's also helping Google understand that, okay, if here we have a blog post about a subject, and we also sell this product, let's link to it. And what other way in links in particular is helping Google understand topics, and also helping with internal linking as well.
So I think the interesting thing is that as SEOs or as business people, we tend to jump to the end game without realizing the bit in the middle. I don't know if you'll agree with me. I think you will. So, for example, hand sanitizers. Very hard to find hand sanitizers if you haven't got yours recently. This was the last one we could find in the shops today. So I'm sure there's going to be plenty of SEOs out there starting to optimize for hand sanitizers. Fine, okay. Good luck with that. It's going to be a competitive little industry for a while. I think your supply is going to be your biggest problem, not the delivery. But if you just try and write lots of content and link it all to the buy page, then you're missing the trick, because what Google's trying to do is trying to get the user, when somebody says hand sanitizer in a search, then what they're really saying is, well, what do you want to know about hand sanitizer? Do you want to know what kind of ingredients are going to stop the coronavirus, or do you want to know, how to get it, or do you want to know whether it's going to do any good at all, or whether it, how to use it? What do you need to know? And then so it's not trying to send the user to the buy page. The buy page might be at the bottom of the content, but the content is about hand sanitizers in the context in which the user wants to understand hand sanitizers. Sure. So you might have a lot of pages that are about hand sanitizers, but ultimately you've got one page that is the topic premium, the cornerstone page for hand sanitizers, which is the entity, and the entity has to go somewhere. So you put that page in there, and you can have the buy thing on all the pages, but ultimately the other times that you talk about hand sanitizers, it's almost as if it's you're creating the dictionary entry for yourself for the hand sanitizer page, but that hand sanitizer page then has to be better than everybody else's, and in understanding the needs of that user at that time.
So basically, yeah. So basically, and that hand sanitizer page would, obviously could link out to other pages that are about different types of hand sanitizer. And
absolutely, and you could be
hand sanitizer with aloe versus not with aloe, and advantages and disadvantages, and
hand sanitizer versus soap. Soap is another entity, and you'd want another article on soap. And there's no reason why those pages can't link, because they're semantically quite close in concept.
So one of the things, I want to get back to a little bit about interlinks, the process, kind of what I have done, gone through it, and signing up for interlinks, and then actually just letting interlinks crawl my site and look at the content, tell me about, understand it tells me, it identifies the topics and entities and so forth. And one of the areas I do like is that it tells me what kind of topics that I'm missing, or keywords, or certain entities that I'm missing that I could be writing about. And that's a key for me, because lots of questions about, okay, well, what am I going to write about today? What am I going to put in my content calendar for the next 6 months to get this, to get these topics.
Right.
So it's not, as I understand, it's not just about, doing internal linking, but also understanding the topics and the entities that are mentioned, and creating a knowledge graph of, your particular site or your particular and page.
Fundamentally, that's exactly what it does. So it's at its heart, we've got our own knowledge graph, independent of Google's, but we've also got a really good NLP program. Yes, in-house, written by us, owned by us. And it's very, very good at picking out granular topic ideas. So what we can then do is look at those topics and build a database for any set of data. So your website is a set of data. So the reason that you're then seeing all the topics, you can then, for most people, they didn't realize that they were talking. For me, when I was when I did it on DixonJones.com, I didn't realize that I was talking about publishing so much. I didn't, and publishing really isn't. It's about online publishing, but publishing as a concept in Wikipedia wasn't always about that. It was about print. So I was kind of, I hadn't realized that I'd just gone so far that my site was about publishing. It wasn't about search engine optimization. Anyway, you learn and you adapt, because then you see all the content that you've written that's involved publishing, and you say, yeah, okay, but I haven't got a page on publishing. So write a page on publishing, internet publishing, or publishing web content, is the right thing, so that you've got somewhere to take those citations, if you like, to, that's going to be meaningful for a user at the far end. So, which is, one of the ways you do it. The other way you do it, of course, is we take the top 10 people that are ranking for any key phrase and build a knowledge graph out of that. And then that's great because you've got your own content, you've got the knowledge graph of the content that's already ranking, and then you've got the green lines and the blue lines, and you don't want the blue lines, you want lots of green.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I think we're just actually about out of time. So let me understand, how I can get in touch with you and so forth. If I have any other, or me or anybody else listening can get in touch with you.
So, Bill, if you want to get hold of me, just pick up the phone. But if anybody else wants to get hold of me, then my Twitter handle is @Dixon_Jones. You can go to dixonjones.com. That's my trading vehicle. And if you want to try Inlinks, go to inlinks.net. And that's free for your first 20 pages. So have a play with that.
Okay, sounds great. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. This has been the Digital Marketing with Bill Hartzer podcast. Thanks again, Dixon, and we'll see you online.
Thanks very much. See you there, Bill.
Thanks. Yep.